Story 1. When a partner becomes seriously ill, following a major operation or cancer treatment, you find yourself bathing and cleaning them. As they begin to recover, you assist them on and off the toilet. While intimacy is important, caring for someone you have loved for a decade and managing their vulnerabilities can be challenging. It requires meeting their gaze and navigating through moments of deep vulnerability with someone who was once so strong. In these situations, maintaining calm during conflicts is crucial. Understanding that their frustrations are not directed at you, but rather at their own weaknesses, is key. It's essential to gently and firmly work through all of it together. Story 2. Feeling so safe with someone that your nervous system calms down when they enter the room is a depth of connection that goes beyond physical intimacy. Story 3. I had surgery on both arms last week, and my wife has been helping me with personal care in the shower, which feels quite intimate. Story 4. I watched a deceased child with my colleague. We both cried at the end. That was 16 years ago, one of the most intense experiences of my life. My colleague and I formed a strong bond through that trauma, and we remain friends to this day. Story 5. Being fully open and comfortable with each other, sharing trust, vulnerability, and genuine connection without holding back. Story 6. Sharing childhood trauma at 3 a.m. while one of you is rolling a blunt and the other is crying and laughing through it. Story 7. 2 things I truly consider to be the ultimate intimacy. First is laughter together. My current girlfriend has a sense of humor that mirrors mine. Her laugh is beautiful. So when one of us does something silly or cracks a joke to make the other laugh and we're both struggling to catch our breath, I love those moments. The second is honesty paired with vulnerability. I had to tell her something about myself that I was not proud of early on because if it were a deal breaker, then I didn't want to invest as I knew right away I'd fall for her and didn't want the pain. She responded with such grace. Then she did something I didn't expect at all. She offered to share something from her past that she was not proud of. I told her if she was comfortable sharing it, I'd love to know, but not to do it for any other reason. She told me something significant and struggled to express it. That moment of both her and I opening up and being vulnerable like that certainly made me fall faster and harder, and I would absolutely describe it as an unbelievably intimate moment. Story 8. Sharing the birth of your child is a profound experience, as it involves both parents bringing a new life into the world together. Nothing can compare to that moment. Story 9. Being human and honest with one another is important. Many people are afraid to be vulnerable, and even more are afraid of being honest and considering the feelings of others. This requires a level of intimacy and self-awareness, along with the strength or openness to share that with another person. However, most individuals are not in tune with themselves, making it difficult for them to connect intimately with others. Story 10. Traveling to a foreign country together can be a unique experience. Being away from family and friends with no one familiar nearby can be quite impactful. Story 11. Dawn on the sidewalk, with a beer in hand, talking about what hurts you the most and what you love the most, regardless of the sun on your face, laughing and crying because you needed someone to listen. Story 12. Holding space for someone's deepest cry at 3 a.m. and not needing to fix it, just being there. That kind of raw humanity feels unique. Story 13. For me personally, after my final tour in Afghanistan and a messy divorce, my high school best friend, with whom I had lost contact, reached out and wanted to visit me. We had never had any romantic feelings for each other, but we knew everything about one another. What began as a friendly beach weekend in South Florida ended with us drinking wine on my balcony. Next, she cried in my arms about how afraid she was to lose me when I was overseas. Finally, we ended up in bed making love while The Lord of the Rings played in the background. I asked her to marry me, the feeling of my best friend now being my fiancé, starting from what began as just a typical weekend, and finding myself inside of her while she looked at me with her blue eyes is almost impossible to describe. It was and still is an incredibly intimate experience. Story 14. Playing with their hair, feeding them, giving forehead kisses, holding hands, sharing a sense of humor, and acting completely absurd in public together. Oh, how I miss that feeling. Story 15. moved to China right after graduation, and worked at a university with two other Americans who lived in the apartments next to me. We experienced new things together to the fullest. We learned about another culture together, received our first real paycheck together, and figured out how to navigate adulthood as a team. We learned new job skills together and made Chinese friends. Ultimately, we were the only ones who could truly understand each other, having shared the experience of growing up in the same culture in the United States. We only spent one day fully apart in the first year. After 3 years, I know almost every single one of their life stories, and they know mine. We used to bring mattresses into one of our living rooms to form a megabed and binge-watch shows with snacks. There were so many laughs and a lot of tears. Life felt like a sitcom. We were living life together in every sense. It's been over a decade since then, and we are in different places in the United States, but when we get together, it still feels the same. Story 16. Performing cardiopulmonary resuscitation on my husband was more intimate than any relationship we ever had. Turning off life support 24 hours later and saying goodbye was by far the most intimate thing I could ever have done with him. Story 17. Having a child together is a profound experience. There is nothing more intimate than sharing half your DNA with someone else. Story 18. Sharing an intimate experience with your partner can be deeply meaningful. Going on nature hikes in remote areas allows for a connection to the natural world and a sense of adventure. It lets you escape the distractions of modern life, focusing on just you and your companion amidst the beauty of nature. Story 19. 2 answers. 1. Being able to discuss childhood issues or trauma without worrying about judgment or bringing them back up, and accepting them and their past. Engaging in intimacy without the goal of climaxing and having conversations during the experience. Discussing the universe, predestination, and karma while being physically close adds several levels of intimacy. Story 20. I believe the most intimate thing two people can do is to be fully seen by each other. No masks, no filters, no trying to impress. Just sitting in all your weirdness and rawness while the other person embraces that. It's not always physical. It's those late-night conversations when you're both tired but surprisingly honest. When you express things you didn't even realize you were holding in. Or when you're silent but still feel completely connected. It hits differently. Physical intimacy is significant too, especially when there's trust and care involved, which can be beautiful. It's all about safety, I believe. Feeling like you can show up as your messy, human self and still be accepted, either emotionally or literally. Story 21. I was caught off guard by an exercise that a group had us try. We sat on the ground, across from a stranger, and simply looked into each other's eyes for 5 minutes. No talking, no noise, just gazing into each other's eyes. It was surprising how strange that felt. Story 22. I would have to say childbirth. There is nothing more intimate than watching a literal human emerge from your partner's body. Story 23. Trauma. Going through serious challenges together can create a strong bond, like super glue. Story 24. Absolutely nothing. Just being together, not doing anything. No talking, no television, just holding each other. Story 25. A kiss on someone's forehead while they curl up in your arms feels so intimate. Story 26. Being on vacation and both of you experiencing Bali belly with only one available toilet nearby can be quite a bonding experience. Story 27. In my 27 years of life thus far, the most intimate time I ever had with someone outside of sex was sharing a silent yet caring embrace while we both sat in a hot tub during the winter in Oklahoma. We watched How to Train Your Dragon on her iPad, which was propped up on the far end of the hot tub. Story 28. After my cesarean section, my husband stood in the hospital shower while I sat in the shower chair, making sure I had a proper shower to help me feel human again. It was such a sweet connection. He then helped me get dressed and brush my hair. Story 29. I think about a near-death experience. I have never been there, but I am a true crime fan, so I have read and heard some incredible stories that reference this. Witnessing and being part of a serious trauma is very intimate. Fear emerges, and you cannot hide behind a public facade. Story 30. Naturally, It is likely something wholesome and profound, such as the shared connection of intimate moments after a night of confessing deep secrets, personal pasts, and fundamental beliefs. But why stop there? We live in a modern world. Add some ecstasy, hallucinogenic mushrooms, and a small amount of a stimulant to artificially elevate that same night to a level that no ordinary human experience could ever hope to achieve. Story 31. For me, it's about lying together and sharing each other's most enjoyable, hurtful, deepest, and insightful parts of life, giving one person time to talk while the other listens. Story 32. Being sick together can either bring you closer or drive you apart. Nothing highlights this more than experiencing a bout of food poisoning in a foreign country when you both need to use the toilet at the same time for days. As a side note, my girlfriend got sick a day before I did, so she recovered a few days before me. She went out and bought me 2 BB guns and ammo, then proceeded to hang targets around the hotel room to keep me entertained between frequent trips to the bathroom. And yes, I married that woman. Story 33. Lying side by side in silence during a moment, feeling and sharing each other's sadness while providing reassurance at the same time. Story 34. Sex is obvious, but pregnancy is something different. The most intimate moment for me was placing my head and hand on my wife's stomach while our baby kicked. Sharing that is one of my favorite memories. Story 35. Drive a two-wheeler on the road along the beach in a city where no one knows either of them, feeling the wind in their hair while soaking in the moment. Story 36. Being in a life-or-death situation, such as being taken hostage, held at gunpoint, surviving a plane crash, or experiencing a terrorist attack, can be incredibly intense and traumatic. Story 37. Finding out that someone else shares the same set of interests and enjoying them together. Story 38. Helping someone after surgery can be a bonding experience. My partner had major hip surgery and was completely dependent on me for everything. I assisted him with dressing, helped him out of bed to use the toilet, and supported him in the shower. We even laughed about how clumsy I was at dressing him. Story 39. A man can regain his passion for art by sketching a woman in different poses. She serves as a chaperone for an older man who is misanthropic, suffers from obsessive-compulsive disorder, and does not appreciate the artist. Can you name the movie? Story 40. When you lock eyes with someone and feel so comfortable that there is no need to look away or fill the silence with a joke or any acknowledgement, it feels as if they are looking right at you. You feel enveloped in a sense of safety and love, as if all that you are is perfect in their eyes. I felt this way with my dad as a child and with my childhood dog. I hope to experience this feeling again soon. Story 41. An ex was next to me when I received the call informing me that my terminally ill father had died. We ran to the hospital. I cried, and she cried too, and I tried to cheer her up. That was the most intimate moment I had with another person. The fact that we no longer talk really hurts me. Story 42. A former neighbor of mine served in the 5th Marines during the worst part of the Vietnam conflict. One day, we were talking on his front porch while enjoying a bottle of Jim Beam. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he said, "You know what Vietnam taught me? That killing a person is the most intimate thing you can ever do. More intimate than sex. You spend the rest of your life feeling like you are carrying their souls everywhere you go. I hope you never have to experience that." Then, he went inside and never mentioned it again. Story 43. An intimate thing is a massage. Every time my boyfriend is at my house, tired from work, he gives me a massage. Story 44. Touching intimate parts together. Try at your own risk. This may be too personal for you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Story 45. It may sound silly, but being sick together can create a unique bond. When my ex and I first moved in together, the awkward phase of cohabitation was cut short because we both got norovirus. We spent several days lying in bed, watching movies, and occasionally stepping away to deal with being ill. It was a vulnerable state to be in with someone. Story 46. Blow drying my hair after we got caught in the rain during a walk. When I was feeling anxious, I smelled him, and it helped me calm down on a deeper level than conscious thought. Story 47. Overcome difficult problems that life presents. the kind of challenges that truly test everything. Standing firm together, nothing can drive you apart faster or bring you closer. Story 48. Lying with each other completely naked and not making it sexually intimate is a very intimate and calming experience. Just enjoying each other's presence, their warmth, and how familiar they feel without being driven by lust. Story 49. In America, have all your money consolidated in the bank so that either person can withdraw or deposit in the account. Engaging in physical intimacy is not the most profound connection you can share. Wearing a ring and signing a legal document is not the most meaningful act either. Having your wealth intertwined in a capitalist society signifies trust on an entirely different level. Either party has the power to undermine the other at any moment. Believe me, I know. There's a reason I am now 50, living in my mother's small apartment. I consider myself fortunate because, without her support, I would likely be homeless or worse in Florida. We were together for over a decade, and we did not even have a joint account. However, I allowed her to use my card a few times. Once the bank discovers that it is no longer their problem, it becomes yours. The same applies if you withdraw a large amount of cash and lose it. Not the bank's concern. That is why I became an expert in low-income personal budgeting and recommend that no one ever engages in such practices. Keep your finances private as if they were something highly controversial. Story 50. I wouldn't say it's the most intimate thing two humans can experience with one another, but I will share an experience that resonates with me deeply. Nearing the end of last year, I was living with my best friend in an Airbnb, as we were homeless at the time and it was the cheapest way to have a roof over our heads. We had already gone through a lot together over the course of 2024. On a random morning, I woke up with the worst pain I had ever experienced in my life. I was screaming and crying before I was fully awake and conscious. Thankfully, my friend was already standing near my bed by the time I sat up and processed what was going on. He held me and comforted me for a few minutes to see if the pain would ease, but to no avail. I started throwing up and knew that this pain was abnormal. I needed to go to the hospital. I begged him to take me, and he finally realized the severity of the situation. He picked me up out of my bed and rushed me down the stairs while holding me in his arms and gently sat me down comfortably in his car. He found the emergency room closest to us and started driving. He held my hand and comforted me the entire drive. Once we arrived, he carried me into the emergency room and ensured that I got the immediate help I needed. We found out that I was experiencing a severe gallbladder infection that required immediate removal. Unfortunately, the emergency room did not provide a surgeon, so I had to wait an entire month in severe pain, missing work and losing money, which was another big issue as we were practically homeless and barely living paycheck to paycheck. However, he did not show any distress in these circumstances. He rigorously took care of me, putting in effort like no one had ever done for me before. He constantly ensured I was comfortable, took my medications, followed the right diet, assisted me with showering, comforted me through the pain at all hours, cleaned and maintained our room, spent time with me to take my mind off my illness, always made me laugh, and made sure I never went a day without feeling loved. As the month neared its end, I had to return to work. After my workday ended, I couldn't take it anymore. The pain was too severe to even walk back into his car, and I begged him to take me to the emergency room again. He rushed me there as quickly as he could. I pleaded with the doctor for emergency surgery, yet the doctor insisted it was a urinary tract infection. Of course, because I am a woman, my illness and needs were not taken seriously. I was placed in a hospital bed in the middle of the hallway, barely receiving any care or attention. We were there from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. without being given any food or water, and my friend was miserable, but he stuck through it for me. Thankfully, he stood up for me to the doctor and insisted that he take my scans to the surgeon, saying that he knew for certain it was not a urinary tract infection as we had visited this same emergency room a month earlier with a different diagnosis. Surprisingly, the doctor returned after a while and informed me that I was going in for emergency surgery. I was transported by ambulance, and my friend followed in his car, enduring a 45-minute drive after being awake all night with me. We waited in the hallway of this hospital as well, but thankfully, my surgery was successful sooner than later. Afterward, my friend took care of me the entire time I was recovering, and I managed to make a full recovery. This man single-handedly saved my life, both figuratively and physically, in not only this situation but others too. To this day, we are still living together. I am beyond grateful and blessed to have him in my life, and I couldn't imagine it any other way. What a guy. Story 51. Face to face. Sitting or lying and talking, being genuine all through the night, until you both fall asleep holding hands. Story 52. I've heard there's this thing where one human actually puts a literal body part inside a hole in another person's body. Story 53. Engaging in a playful competition, where two individuals come together in a unique way, leading to a reversal of power dynamics. The winner demonstrates deeper affection. If the moment passes before a resolution is reached, it signifies a peak mutual affection. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.